With over 400 celebrity interviews and tons of pop culture nerdiness, Too Opinionated is a safe haven for your inner geek. Find us at meistercon.com or on YouTube under MeisterCon Pod. And please subscribe. It would really help us out. Thanks, everybody. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Too Opinionated. Super excited. Today, I've got writer-director Rick Castaneda with me. So welcome, Rick.
Hey, here we go.
I know I've been like talking your ear off for the last 10 minutes off camera, but I figure we might as well get some of this recorded.
Probably a good idea for a podcast.
So our good friend Mark Netter set us up together. He's like, one of my favorite movies is All Sorts, so you need to talk to this guy. I was like, okay, we'll do it. He's right. That is the quirkiest, best movie I've seen in a while.
Thanks.
Really, really enjoyed that.
Thank you.
It was just it's fun sometimes to watch something where you have no idea where it's going to take you. You're just along for the ride.
I agree. I think it's, we become so literate in movies, right? Like we all watch movies, you and I probably, we love movies more than most people, but everybody watches movies, and the more that you watch them, the more that you understand. Like my wife, she's able to, like, when we watch any movie, she's like, oh, that guy did it, or oh, they're gonna fall in love, or this person's gonna, she knows that, oh, this little thing that he said, that means this is gonna happen. She knows immediately. And I think that's because, a lot of films are written with a very specific formula in mind, and we all know that formula inherently. And I think that sometimes you just kind of have to break that a little bit so that it is more unexpected. You can feel like something might happen and you don't know what is going to happen next. And that is something we try to do with this film.
So does your wife appreciate that? Or does she like knowing what's coming?
I think both. I think that, there's a happy medium between where everything's completely predictable and you don't even really need to watch the movie to know what happens next. And then there's, other movies that are just too off the wall, I think, for her, where, it's like, what is even happening in this movie? But those are the kind of movies that I like.
Yeah, me too. I enjoy those too. So I want to talk about some of the movies, but before we do that, talk a little bit about what got you into the entertainment business. What made you want to, that's a tough business. What made you want to get into that?
Actually, that starts way back when I was in first grade. We had this class where we would basically, our teacher, our first grade teacher would ask us to write stories. And there was she would hand out this blank piece of paper. It was, probably about, 1 foot by 2 foot. It was pretty big, right? And we would fold it in the middle. And we would basically, on the front, we would, she would ask us to write a story. And on the front, we'd put the, the beginning of the intro of the story. And then, something, you open it up and then, all of these crazy hijinks happen in the middle. And then the third page, you wrap it up, you find out a way. And so she was really teaching us 3-act structure. And I just fell in love with creating stories. And there was this thing in my town called the Young Authors Conference, which was in, about 30 minutes away. But we would go and, one person from every class would get elected or chosen to go to this Young Authors Conference. And I got chosen every year because I, just loved storytelling so much. And I would put so much effort in my stories. I think everybody else saw it as just an assignment. But whenever I saw it, I was like, oh, this is everything, I love this, And so even at first grade, I would write, I wrote, probably a 15-page story that had, a character and everything. And I loved it so much. And we would go to this conference, and it was about kind of introducing you to kind of the idea of writing. And so there would be authors there that would come and talk about what their livings were like, what was their day-to-day like, how did they, how did they become a better writer? And I was just, my mind was blown, because I was like, oh, you mean these like stories that I've been reading are like actually written by people and that's their job? Because I was like, that's it for me. And then, so I knew from like very young age that that's what I wanted to do with my life. But then, you start growing up, and right around middle school, I was kind of like, wait a minute, all these writers that I'm reading keep talking about how it's hard to make a living at writing, and it's a hard career to choose, and all of these things. So at that point, I started thinking about other careers that could pay. And at the time I was reading a lot of John Grisham, and also Michael Crichton. And so John Grisham,
I'm a big fan of his.
He became a lawyer. He wrote The Firm and The Pelican Brief and all of these books that got turned into movies. And he became a lawyer first, and that's where he got his material from, is that all of his books were generally about the life of a lawyer. And because he had all those details and knew what that was like, he had he could write his book very easily, or more easily than I would, because I've never been a lawyer, right? And so then and Michael Crichton, he kind of he went to medical school and he became a doctor, and that's kind of where a lot of his stories came from. He created the series ER, about the emergency room. He also wrote Jurassic Park, and how those and I think that kind of scientific medical mind really informed the whole idea of DNA, and how he did research for his books. And so I thought, okay, what am I good at? And I was really good at math and science. So I thought, okay, maybe I'll be a engineer. And I think that's, the reason I thought of that was because like my brother and sister were going to school for engineering. And my dad had originally been a computer engineer, electrical engineer, I should say. And so when I was thinking about it, I was like, okay, I'll be an electrical engineer and I'll like make my money that way, and then I'll do writing on the side. And then two things happened. One was that my brother and my sister both decided not to become engineers, and like they graduated and with their degrees and everything from Stanford University. And after a few years, they both decided to become teachers, of one of high school and one of grade school. And it was because they really hated working in an office and hated, working with, they didn't really want to be an engineer, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I get that. And that happens a lot, don't you think, when you go to college? Sometimes you don't know exactly what you want to do, or maybe but you don't trust it. So you do what someone else is doing because that makes sense. And then it may not be the right thing.
Right. And the other thing that happened was I went to a writing workshop in Port Townsend, Washington, and it just changed my life, because it was, a week long. It was during high school, and I was there for a week, and my only responsibilities were to read and write and eat and sleep. And that was pretty much it. And it was the most amazing time where I like found other people who were, pretty much exactly like me, who were like artists and, really cared about all of the things that I cared about. And everything felt so right that I realized if I went to school for engineering, I would be lying to everybody and also myself about what I wanted to do. And I was like, well, you only get one shot at this life. Why don't I really just go for the thing that I really want to go for? And I think the fact that, my brother and my sister had, spent all these years studying something they didn't really want to study, that kind of gave me the courage to study something that I did really want to study, which was writing and filmmaking.
How did your dad take that everybody switched away from engineering?
My parents are kind of unicorns. They're like, I would describe them as the best parents on the earth. So my dad has a very big artistic streak. He his main career was actually managing, being the executive director of a clinic. And so he kind of built this clinic up from 10 people to like over 200 people. But at the same time that he was doing that, he always had his passions. He was always writing. He was like writing books. He was writing songs. He was recording music. He was writing poetry. He was creating beautiful furniture and also his own jewelry. Like there's just like, he just kind of dabbled in pretty much everything.
Yeah.
And so I think that he looked at it like, oh, wow, okay, you're really going for this. That's great. He said, you know, like, he never told me, you know, not to do that. I think my mom was like a little bit more worried about finances and just kind of like, oh, are you sure you want to do that?
You need a fallback, but you got to have a fallback.
Yeah, but I don't think, you know, I was very lucky that I was the fourth of 4 children.
Yeah.
And by the time they get to number 4, they're like, oh, everybody else kind of figured stuff out. You'll figure stuff out. So that really helped me. And the fact that, you know, I could look up at my brothers and sisters and see what they were doing with their careers, that really helped me too, because I think if I was the first, I just have no idea where to look, you know, like, what do you do? Do you do this? Do you do this? Do you do this? And that was really, I was really lucky for me.
Yeah, that's pretty great. Did you do, you know, anything through high school as far as like, did you do theater or were you in a band or play sports, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a really small town. It's called Granger, Washington. And it's 30 minutes away from where we filmed All Sorts, which is the movie that you were talking about. And this small town, when I was growing up there, probably had about 1,500, you know, 2,000 people in it. And we had no stoplights, no McDonald's. And it's a very small town and there's not much to do, you know, like you can't go see a concert or something. You can't, you know, there's no parade, you know, like, unless it's parade season or something, like there's just not much to do there. And so I did everything. I was in the band, I played sports, I was in the theater class that we had. We didn't have a theater program by that point. I don't know, the arts had gotten cut too much at that point to have an actual theater program, but we did have a theater class, and I did take that class, and I tried to do the best I can. And one thing that really changed everything was that we got this, someone in the school got a Mac G3, and it had little RCA composite inputs on the back. So you could import from a VHS player. And so we could import things into it. And I never really liked filmmaking because at that point, because we always had to edit in camera. You had to like just record the scene, pause it, go to the next scene, record that scene and pause it. And there's always this like big static thing in the middle of everything. So it just felt very clunky. And it wasn't until we got that non-linear editor with the computer that I felt like, oh, I can actually like fine tune this the same way that I can fine tune my writing. And then it became very exciting to me and was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's pretty great. I think it's interesting. Like if you've never grown up in a small town, it's different. You know, it's just a different mindset. Like we went, it's been several years back now, but we went to my wife's high school reunion, and I come from small towns, but she came from tiny town. You know, it sounds like what you grew up in.
Yeah.
So we went back for that reunion, and you know, she's playing on the alumni basketball team. She's in the alumni jazz band. You know, she's alumni softball. It's like every single activity she's involved in, because that's what they had to do. Their class was so small, everybody had to be in everything.
My graduating class was 45 people.
Oh, that's small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I always thought mine was small. I was like 160.
Yeah. There you go.
45.
Yeah. So everybody played sports. Everybody, you know, knew each other. There weren't, it wasn't big enough to have cliques. So it was like, oh, like this clique was, 4 people, but that person also is this person and this person and this person. And so that was really nice about it, is that you did feel like you really knew everybody. And it's nice to still feel like I come from a place where, there's like a group on Facebook that talks about news from the town, and I know that person and I know this person, and
I'm in a group like that as well.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, usually like if you come from a big town and you're in a like an alumni group, you probably don't know 90% of them. But the group I'm in, I know every single person on there. What was what was your first, project or thing that you worked on that actually got made?
And what do you
Well,
mean?
like I'm sure you've worked on a bunch of stuff, but what what was the first thing that you had wrote or directed that was actually turned into something?
I think I guess, are we talking kind of like high school or?
Well, just in your professional career.
Oh, okay.
What was the first thing that you made that actually went on and became something?
I did a short film out of college. It was called The Golden Egg, and it was about a guy who started laying golden eggs because he met some witch in a forest or something. And so the problem with that is that the golden eggs is great, but they keep getting bigger. So every time he lays it, it's just get bigger and bigger, and it's kind of tearing him up. So we did the short film, and the first place it went, it got into South by Southwest, which is a big festival in film festival in Austin. And that was just an amazing experience going there. It's just one of the best festivals. And then we also got picked up for this film festival called Short Shorts in Japan. And so they have this deal with the American embassy, where the American embassy like flies out American filmmakers to be part of this film festival. And so I was one of the American filmmakers that awesome. Got chosen. And so, I'm this Mexican American kid from, this really small town, and, getting to go to Japan, Tokyo. I took 2 of my friends with me from that town, because when else are we going to get to go to Tokyo? Right. And we just had an amazing time. They were so welcoming. They really rolled out the carpet for all of us. And now that I look back on that, there's so many directors that I met during that film festival that have just become really big, where they're like going to Sundance every year. They are, one of them, my friend AJ, he got his film produced by Cameron Crowe. And, a lot of other, so it's been pretty cool to see how people have come up.
It's probably like those are connections you make and you keep them your whole career.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so that's terrific. Yeah, I got a chance to go to Sundance in 2020. Like we came back from Sundance and everything got shut down.
Wow.
We've been back like a day or two and everything shut down. But it was such a great experience. It's the first big film festival I'd been to, and it's just a really creative event. It's like everything you do, you're around all these people that are so talented and creative, and it just has that kind of energy to it. It's a lot of fun.
It was really fun to me to just see how many film lovers there were when I went and visited one year. And I met this this housewife from the Midwest, and I said, "Oh, hey, like you're always kind of like introducing yourself to people, and you're saying like, like, what do you do?" And she, and she was like, "Oh, I'm a housewife. I'm from the Midwest, but I just come out here to see all the movies. I love movies." And I said, "How many films have you watched so far?" And we were probably a week into Sundance. She said 37.
Oh my gosh!
And she just was watching them all day long, and she just just
I can't compete with that. That's a lot of movies.
That was a lot of movies.
And it's a lot of like a lot of times at the festivals you end up getting a lot of the independent stuff it's not it doesn't follow the main screen script a lot of times,
right?
Which is great. That's what a lot of people love about the festivals, and it's what I love about them. But I don't know if I could watch 37. That's a lot.
Not in a week, no.
No, that's a lot.
That was what she did.
That's a lot. Yeah. What made you and maybe you've done this, but what made you start writing scripts instead of trying to write, say, a novel?
I think it was a big decision, and I think that I was always trying to like kind of go with the flow, I guess. Trying to figure out, okay, what feels right. And I wrote a lot of short stories in college, and I started submitting them to different places, but I didn't get a lot of responses, and you kind of just wait for months and months and,
Right.
wait to hear it. And the other thing is you can get a response to a short story, but it's really just not the same as a response to a short film, where you actually get to sit down with a lot of people and hear a whole room of people laugh at something you wrote is just one of the best feelings. And so I think that that's kind of probably what led me to that. And the other thing is that, I was kind of like looking at different, writing jobs and different filmmaking jobs after college. But I started getting work as an editor for films and videos, and that became much easier to it became a much easier career to kind of like build up, I'd say.
Right.
And so I think that I think one thing that I give this advice to interns all the time, and anybody who asks me advice, but if you're trying to get started in the film industry, the best things to do are find a job that takes both technical know-how and equipment. Because those are the ones that not everybody can just say that they do. You can't just go in and say you know how to work this camera if you've never worked it before. The same thing with an editing program. They're so available now, you can find it out. But if you actually haven't done it before, it's pretty easy to find out this person doesn't really know what they're doing.
Right.
Whereas with writing and directing, it can be a little bit more difficult because they don't take they take technical knowledge, but it's not like computer or camera technical knowledge, if that makes sense.
It does.
It's and the same thing with writing. Like anybody can kind of like pick up a pen or a keyboard and say that they're a writer, and but it's easier to say you're a writer and director, I think, than to say that you're an editor or a cinematographer or sound engineer or anything else.
Yeah, no, and that makes sense to me. Plus, it gives you an income while you're trying to get some stuff made.
Yeah, exactly. So I still think that there are some novels, in the back of my mind, but I have decided for the past, I don't know, 15, 20 years that I'm really going to make a go of this filmmaking.
Yeah, I think that's terrific. So we'd mentioned Mark Netter earlier, and you had worked with him on Nightmare Code.
Oh yeah,
I believe, right? But you were a supervisor on that. So I wanted to ask you, what is that? What does a supervisor on a film do?
I was the post supervisor on that film, and basically they supervise the post. So it's someone who kind of has technical knowledge of how everything that is required to finish a final film. They know a little bit about editing. They know a little bit about graphics. They know about the compression that a film is made. They know about like the coloring process. And basically I just coordinated all those people. Because Mark, Mark's movie he made while he had a full-time job somewhere else.
Right.
And so that's a really difficult thing to do, and he needed someone to kind of like make sure the film was still working on it. The film was still getting finished while he was doing his other job. Yeah. And so I kind of was coordinating between the editor and the graphics people and the sound people and all of that to like put everything together and then show it to Mark to see what his comments were.
Yeah, that seems like that would be a really good step to take before you directed something. Like it seems like that would give you like all the behind the scenes knowledge that you would need before you stepped into a director role. But I'm guessing that you had probably done some directing before you did this.
Yeah, so when I graduated from college, that was the nice thing about working in the film industry was I started a production company with a few friends of mine from USC. Yeah. And we pooled all our resources, and we got an office, and we started finding work and people that wanted us to make things, and we kind of just slowly started building it. And what I found was that it was nice to be able to direct something every once in a while, and not a lot of my friends, they got a job doing this or that, or, supporting their filmmaking by some other means. And the problem, I think, with that sometimes is that when you do finally, make your short film, you haven't directed anything in a year or two. And so you're just kind of starting it up. And might be a little bit rusty. And so with me, I was like, oh, I directed something, a week ago, 2 weeks ago. And so I'm already like kind of warmed up and ready to work with actors. The downside of that is that, running a company, it just takes so much time. So at the same time, you don't have as much time to devote to like writing or like developing your project.
Well, yeah, if you were just more gun for hire, say, you kind of go wherever you need to go at a drop of a hat, but you can't do that if you're also trying to run a company at the same time.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But there's all sorts of different, paths that people take. I had one friend who he worked he was a bartender for about 10 years, and he just kept writing scripts and writing scripts and writing scripts, and then, sending them out to competitions, and slowly, they started getting higher and higher in the competition, higher and higher in competition, until finally he won one of the biggest competitions, and he got a full, he got all these different agents like trying to sign him, and he really made it big. But 10 years into that, you're thinking like, oh, is this really going to work or not?
Most people would have given up by then.
Yeah, exactly. But he was, he dedicated, and he kept at it for 10 years. He kept writing, 1 script or 2 scripts per year, every year, and just kept getting better and better and better.
Yeah. So my stepson is a big fan of Sushi Dragon Show.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
He's what, like, my son and I do this podcast. And my stepson, he's the musical talent of the family. So he's works on some of the sound stuff for us, but he turned us on to this Sushi Dragon Show. Talk a little bit about the idea behind that, because it's fun. It's a very Adult Swim type of show.
Yeah, the Sushi Dragon. A friend of mine was working at the network that was making the Sushi Dragon show, starring the Sushi Dragon, and I had never heard of him before. And my friend told me, "Oh, you should check it out. It's kind of like an avant-garde dance show." And I was just thinking to myself, like, what does that even mean? Like, what? Like, and
it's
and
unique.
It's very different. But I started watching him on Twitch, and he just isn't amazing. So he's kind of on the edge of technology, which is really exciting, but he's kind of a one-man band where he films himself and live streams himself. But he does it to the 10th degree. So whereas other people, they have one camera and they're live streaming, he has about 15 cameras, and he has these little joysticks in his hand that he's pushing buttons, and he's, live editing himself between all the different cameras.
Yeah.
And so he's like, hits a button and he's in a close-up. He hits another button, he's in a wide shot, right? But at the same time, there's a green screen behind him. So not only is he editing the foreground, but he's also editing the background. And he's, putting himself like, oh, okay, now I'm in a coffee shop. Boop, now I'm in a theater. And the other thing that he's doing is he's also, he can press another button and have an AR mask that goes over his face, so it looks like he has the head of an alien or something. He has other like body tracking cameras, so that he can manipulate a 2D puppet that a 2D animated 2D animation that has his voice. And he's also got another button so that he can. So to give an example, what he hits a button, if he makes a joke or something, right? Or he wants to kind of like get up on a soapbox, he hits a button, and now he's in a movie theater, or a theater at the front of it and standing in front of a podium. That button also changes his voice, so now it sounds like "Hello world." He has an echo on it, right? And he's like, and that's why I say, vote for fish. Fish will always win, or something. And then he hits another button, and it cuts to a live stock shot of an audience clapping. to his voice and laughing at it. So he's really got it all.
Yeah, it's unique. I mean, how did you get involved in that?
So so I actually interviewed to be the showrunner for that show. So they were basically taking his Twitch show and they wanted to make it a real show and, you know, kind of amp everything up, get, you know, really good guests, have a format, you know, have interviews, have like skits, have like music. And I came in and interviewed for the job. I talked with Sushi Dragon, and immediately like we just clicked, you know, like we just understood each other. And I think we both have kind of like the same creative sensibility, but also we are creative, but we also have a mind for technology as well. So I've done different interactive jobs and I could kind of look at how he was doing things and understand it. Whereas I think a lot of directors would just be like, what? Like, how does those computers work? And how is he doing this? And how is he doing that? But I could kind of come in and say, oh, I see how that is. And when you know how a performer works, then you can figure out what is best to kind of like make them the star. So we would kind of like, oh, if I give you this video graphic, you can enter it in on your side and hit a button and make it look like you're Superman all of a sudden, you know?
Right.
And so we kind of spoke that language, and immediately he was like, oh, we got to work with Rick. So this was like during the middle of the pandemic, and this was like such a great show for the pandemic because it was all, you know, virtual pretty much.
Right.
Yeah. And so we started working with that, and it was just so much fun because you can kind of do anything. And we did about 10 episodes, and it was a lot of fun. It was just incredible.
Well, it's one of those shows too, like the fans of the show, it's almost like a little secret group.
Yeah.
You know, so if you get it, you get it. If that makes sense. Because most people wouldn't have heard about it. But those that have watched it probably gonna like it. And then it's like you're in this secret club.
Yeah. And if you like films and video, it's just the best thing to watch because you can just see it all happening live right in front of your in front of your face.
Did you learn like any tricks or any type of filming that you were able to take and use in other places?
Yeah, actually, after doing that show, we ended up working with this other virtual streamer called CodeMiko. Now, CodeMiko is an artist who she used to work at Nickelodeon as an animator. And at the beginning of the pandemic, she decided, you know what? I'm gonna quit my job. I'm gonna go into I'm gonna become a Twitch streamer, and I'm gonna get an XSEN suit, which is like her body motion capture suit. And she's gonna get like a facial capture rig, and she's gonna become a CGI person that's streaming live on Twitch. And I think it set her back like 30 grand or something, right? But she was like, wow, I'm just going to go and do it. And she did it. And she became one of the biggest streamers in the world. And, has like, 1 million followers. And so she was looking to do a game show. And because of our experience with Sushi Dragon, we were kind of a really good fit where we came up with a game show that she could be the star in, and she could stream. She streams out of Unreal. The Unreal game engine. And so she's streaming live out of her Unreal game engine. And then we would kind of get guests to be on that show. And because of our technical knowledge and understanding how Sushi did his show, we could figure out we were able to pitch a really good idea to for her to do her show that wouldn't take a ton of work and wouldn't take a lot of Unreal artists or anything. So
how is directing a show like that different from directing like a movie?
Well, it was live, so that was a big change, is that you only have one shot to do it. And so, it's so nerve-wracking because, you have...
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking. Those type of shows, you would think would make you very nervous because you can't fix it after because it's live.
Right. And it's that like tens of thousands of people are going to get angry if it like all cuts out in the middle, or if there's like a big problem. But I think it's the same thing with theater, right? Which is just there's this exciting energy that you get from doing it, and when it's all going great, you just feel like you're flying on top of the world. So that was really great too. I would say there's lots of different pots to pour your creativity into, but at the same time they're all kind of the same. they all have their different definitions and their different, rules and all of these different things. But in the end, it's the same energy. You're just pouring it into different kinds of themes.
Yeah. You had worked on, and I think wrote, and you'll have to help me with the name, but it was about a wine salesman.
Yeah, that was my first film, Cement Suitcase. And
yeah. Cement Suitcase. That was it. We really liked that.
Oh, thanks. You watched it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And the only reason we watched it, and this has been because it's been a while, right? This has been back several years. It was about a wine salesman, and my wife spent a lot of time in Europe, so she got used to drinking red wine. She saw that, and it was actually her. It was like, oh, let's try this one out.
Oh, that's great.
So we watched that. Really good. It's really well done. Yeah, but I was thinking, like when I was doing the research, to get ready for the interview, I saw that you had worked on that, and I was like, oh, I've seen that one.
Oh, you'd already seen that before?
I'd already seen it because it'd been several years back, right? I mean, that's been a little while.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a neat surprise. I'll be like, oh, all right, I've already seen that one. Which gave us a few things that you had worked on that we'd seen, because we had already seen All Sorts.
All right.
And then we'd seen Cement Suitcase, and we'd seen some of the work with Sushi Dragon because of my stepson. So I was like, well, this has been great, because I've seen a lot of the stuff you work on, and I really like it because a lot of the things that you do, they're kind of quirky, and I like quirky. They're a little different.
Definitely a little different. Yeah, Cement Suitcase, we filmed that actually over 10 years ago, and we finished it, I think it premiered in 2014, and it's the small little wine movie, and
it's been years since we've seen it.
Yeah.
And strangely enough, we saw it. I'll tell you where we ended up going to see it. It showed at we've got a little, like, if you look it up, there's a West Virginia Film Festival. It's extremely small, very small. But the same place that does that festival shows like kind of independent type movies, like weekly. And it's just this little, like to get to this theater, you've got to go through a back alley. Like you would, there's no way you would go down this alley if you didn't know that the theater was there. So you go through this back alley. It's like in a door, behind another door, and once you get in there, it's this little theater. Well, they were showing Cement Suitcase, which is, and she's like, hey, we need to go check this one out. And I was like, I don't know, I've never heard of this place. Why? And she's like, nah, somebody I know's running. I was like, okay. And so that was the first movie that since then we've seen several at this place, but that was the first one. Cement Suitcase. Yeah,
you'll have to share that with me, because I can't remember ever being in a movie. Like, I don't recall the movie ever being in a theater in West Virginia. So
and that's exciting. Like, it's not an actual theater. It's just a little, like, more like a screening room type of thing. So it's got, like, I don't know, probably 40 seats or something like that in there. It's very intimate, and kind of, it's one of those that it's not unusual for them to pause the movie and stop and talk about it for a little bit.
That sounds incredible.
It's pretty great. Like, we've seen a bunch of, some well-known, like we saw Dr. Strangelove. They showed that there. And that was kind of how it went. It's like every 20 minutes or so, they'd stop and have a little conversation. And so you end up, it adds half an hour or so to the runtime, but it's more like an event. It's interactive.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I'll get the name of it. I'll send it to you, so you can kind of see, because I have no clue.
I mean, it was
how they got associated with, but that's the type of film that they show there.
It was just this really small film that I went back to my hometown to film at, because, when I was making, short films there, everybody just got so excited about making movies, and they were like, how can I be it? How can I,
Well, everybody loves to see themselves on screen, whether or not they have talent or not. That's the question.
Yeah. And and people were just, like we would go into a flower shop or something because we needed, a bouquet of roses for the film. And they would be like, oh, you're with that movie. Here, just take them. And
Yeah.
that's, that does not
That's
happen.
awesome.
That kind of thing does not happen in Los Angeles. I'll tell you that. Like,
no, it's small town stuff right
if
there.
you want a location in Los Angeles, it costs, $3,000 to $5,000.
Well, it's because there's like
per
4 billion people making stuff in LA.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're coming from a little town doing something, that's an event. That's a big deal.
So it's really neat. Like, a lot of people have come up to me from the area, and they're just really excited that film exists because it shows off the Yakima Valley so well. And people, and people from all over the world, people are watching it in small little screening rooms in West Virginia.
And it's got like we love it because it's got a little bit of it's kind of I'd almost say like tongue-in-cheek humor type of thing. It's got some undertones that catch you off guard a little bit.
Yeah. It's a movie about a guy who loses his job, loses his girlfriend.
He's down on his luck.
Loses his house, and somehow that makes him a winner at the end.
Yeah, I like that. Is that what gave you the idea to write that one?
I can't really say. I think
I'm hoping you're not going to say, well, this was me. Because this guy goes through it.
So one of the there were a lot of inspirations. One was, I was just inspired by the area. I wanted to kind of, show what places we had. And I really loved that there was a big, wine culture in that area because, people get excited about it. People get excited about wine. So that's one of the reasons I wanted wine to be a part of it. The main character, I wanted my friend to play because we had worked on so many different short films together, probably over 30 short films we had worked on together. And he just had, so much comedic talent. I knew that as my first film, I just knew that it would be so much easier if he was a part of it. And we had that kind of had that working relationship where we knew that we could do it, together. And then
that makes it, I think that would make it easier to direct if you're already familiar with each other.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and it's a big ordeal, like you're gonna get tired together, you're gonna get angry at each other, you're gonna get, you're working so hard that you want someone that you can trust to go through that journey with you.
I think that's an underrated part of the entertainment business that people that from the outside don't really understand. I mean, when you're working on something, it's long hours. People are getting tired. So you're not always getting someone at their best at any given moment. And that can be very stressful. And there's definitely things that you have to work through. But normally, if you manage to get the product out, it's finished and it's out, it becomes kind of like a bonding experience. So then, those people that you had to work with and go through that stuff with, you end up you've got this thing together. So you've got that connection. So even years later, you're still connected because you had this experience working together.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly how it is. And that's one of the best things about working in film is having that. And to kind of like answer your question, the other thing, the movie is about, this guy named Franklin who has, he knows his wife's cheating on him. But he's afraid to tell her that he knows because, she's kind of the last good thing in his life and he doesn't want to lose her because he hates the rest of his life. And what happens is he ends up meeting the other guy and that guy ends up, inviting him out for golf. And it turns out he really likes that guy. So then kind of he has this whole issue about what does he do. And so I think another strange,
I like that part of it because it made it complicated because it's very easy, your wife's cheating on you, so you just automatically hate the guy. But what happens if you meet the guy and you like him?
And then he had to kind of like, by doing that, he kind of like looks back on himself and says like, oh, well, who am I? And what did I do to kind of lead to this situation? And so one of the inspirations, one of the things that I thought about when I was making this film, or that kind of just popped up in my writing without me really thinking about it, was that my freshman roommate in college, he came back from dinner one night and he says, "Oh, that was tough." And I was like, "What happened?" And he says, "Oh, I just went out. There's this friend of mine that, went on this trip, and me and his girlfriend just, started getting together, and so he just came back and he wanted to have dinner with both of us. And so, me and the girl and him all went out to dinner together, and he was just so kind of like dreading it, but also excited at the same time,
Right.
because he didn't know what was going to happen. And it was just like so much, so much energy that he had going into that that dinner, that I thought, oh wow, that actually is it's like a powder keg, right? It's like a dinner with a powder keg. And I thought, oh wow, I can't believe that was like, he got himself
that could go
situation.
a lot of different directions.
Yeah, I mean, I would never get in that situation to begin with, and I would hate having to go through with it. But he was actually excited about it, and I thought, oh, that's actually kind of interesting that he is kind of interested in going, but also just that this happened, and that,
I love that this story actually had, like, you were actually inspired by a true story.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of where I try to, a lot of the things that happen in this, in these movies, is something that either I heard, or I like that somebody said something like that to me, or I remembered a joke from, this time.
Yeah. That's terrific. And I know you did some work on Ninjago.
Oh yeah, Ninjago. Yeah,
Ninjago. I knew there was a way you had to say it, but yeah, it looks like Ninjago. But yeah, and that's one that when the kids were early or younger, they watched.
Yeah, that was really fun. And to just to make you feel better, the town that they live in is called Ninjago, but whenever they say, whenever they put their hands together and do a cheer, it's always Ninjago. So it's a
all right. That does make me feel better, because I'll admit I've never sat and watched it, but I remember many times when it was on in the background, so I probably caught some of that.
I have to say that show is really good. I was surprised when
kids
started watching it. We started watching it just, because we were bidding on a project that was, for this show, and I had never watched it before, and I started watching it, and it's addictive. And if you're a child, I'm a child of the 80s, and if you're a child of the 80s, they do a lot of like 80s movies tropes. There's kind of like
I'd like that.
There's like a Terminator type, there's Terminator type characters, there's Indiana Jones type storylines, there's like all of these, Star Wars references. And so it's really chock full of those things, and it goes like a mile a minute. It's just like, you watch the last time on, and it looks like it just looks crazy. It's just so crazy how fast they go, but it's a lot of fun. It's like it's a great show. And I think the best thing is that it's for kids, and it's about team building. It's about, trust. It's about, being a responsible person. It's about trying to help others, and has all these like really great, themes that run out throughout that show. But it's also it's just crazy fun.
Yeah. Is it like, it's kind of Lego animation type, right?
Yeah, and Lego's such an interesting company, because they have all these different media properties, and they're, Lego is a toy, but it's also a medium. So they never really, like in Ninjago, for instance, they never reference the fact that they're made out of Lego. And only sometimes do they build something right out of Lego. But for the most part, it's just the medium in which this story takes place. It's like, the claymation, it's the clay, right? Or it's the film, and so that's one that's really exciting, because it's just I don't know. There's nothing really else that's really like that, where it's
no, it's unique. It's very,
yeah.
That's why I said it's like everything that you work on. It's very unique. It's
Yeah.
different. You know, it has something that makes it intriguing.
Yeah, that was a really fun. I got to write and direct and produce on that project, and that was a lot of fun.
Any have you ever had like an ambition to step in front of the camera?
When I was in high school, you know, like that theater class that I was talking about, I think
Yeah.
that there is a lot of joy there. And it's fun, but I can always like, the actors that I work with are amazing, and the amount of control they have over their bodies and the amount of realism they're able to portray. I just know I would never be able to get to that stage, because I think that I could get pretty, you know, like I feel good about myself. I feel like I could get a certain decent way, but an incredible actor, one is that you just feel it, right? And you feel it
Right.
in a way, you feel this authenticity that if I try to reenact something, it's going to be really difficult to feel that.
Yeah.
And the other thing that they can do is that they have all these little knobs and like dials around, you know, everything that they do. So if you're like, okay, cry, you know, cry about your mother, and, you know, totally break down, but could you do it 2 inches this way? And they can do that. Now, like the rest of us, when we're in that mode, it's just like, no, we don't have any control
That's
over
right. That's true.
over those things, right? But a true actor is, you know, able to dive deep into their emotions, at the same time that they're totally aware of what the camera's doing and where they have to stand, and, you know, where they have to angle their
That
face to
is a
catch the light.
skill.
It's incredible. And when you're in the, you know, when you're actually watching it live to someone who is really just doing it in front of you, who's just really good, it's exhilarating.
Yeah, now I completely get that. Are you comfortable enough that if you wrote something, you could put yourself in as a cameo, you'd be fine?
Yeah, I think so. I think I play a good Muppet. I'm very good at whoa, what's up for that guy? Whoa, you know, or
Like that.
something. Like I could definitely be a Muppet on the Muppet Show, but, you know, being an Oscar winning you know, dramatist, not so much in my cards, I don't think.
Yeah, that's well, and that's what a lot of times separates your really top tier of acting with, you know, a really talented, good tier of actors
Right.
that is still way above what most of us could do.
Right.
But then when you put them up against that really top tier of actor, there's just no comparison. That's why it's so difficult. You know,
Absolutely.
it's so hard for people to break into the entertainment business, because it's, you know, it's not enough a lot of times just to be talented. You know, you got to really have something special to really make it. You know, to make you know, a level of success where you don't have to have anything else that you're doing to support yourself. You just do that. Maybe you only do one project a year, but it's a big project. You know,
Right.
that type of level. There's not that many of those people.
My my friend Dwayne Bartholomew, who played Franklin in the movie Suitcase,
Yeah.
that was one thing that I really looked to him for, because he just had that kind of skill where he would tell us, you know, like he could literally just sit, you know, and focus on somebody and make them start crying by the jokes that he was telling, like by you know. And I'd seen him do this to like friends that, you know, like went bowling with. He would like say like, okay, I'm going to focus on you. Like he would focus on them and he would find out what their humor sensibility was. And
Yeah.
as soon as he kind of like located it, he would just like boom, 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 boom. And they would just start laughing and
Oh my
crying and
gosh, I
doubling
love
over.
that.
And it's because he, you know, I could see how fast his like neurons worked. They worked a lot faster than mine, you know. Like I could see that he was like, his brain is connected in a much faster capacity and has like all of these, you know, jokes kind of like stored all over his brain. And so he could kind of zero in on like, okay, this is the kind of sensibility this person has. I know they're going to think this is funny and this is funny and this is funny, but I'm also going to tie in that thing that we just talked about and like the, you know, this thing and that thing. And he could just jump like lightning, like, and they had no idea what was happening, but they were just like cracking up. And I was just like, wow, this guy, you know, this person really has that, you know. But I knew that like I can be funny, but I'm kind of more like I say something that like react, you know, it's like a reaction that's funny or something. I can't tell you like a funny story that's just gonna like make you, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not so good, you know, like as you could see, I have a lot of pauses and, you know, and times where I can't really think about what the next thing
I think it's
I'm gonna
funny
say.
that you recognized that he could do that.
Oh yeah, it's like it's just incredible. Like I've seen him when he's like really on and just where he's able to like it's like watching a superhero, honestly. And there's other people too that, you know, like they've come and performed for me and like the back of your hair just like sticks up, you know.
That's
and
awesome.
You're just like and someone, you know, you look at the next person over that's also watching the audition and you're just like, whoa. Like, what is that? You know, like that star quality, whatever it is, you can feel it in the room, which is crazy.
Do you ever do that with somebody and you're like, yeah, they're not right for this, but I'm definitely remembering them for something?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, Rick, thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with me. I knew you'd have a really fun perspective just from what you do and the projects you work on. You know, the reason that Mark had wanted to get us together is because he's such a fan of All Sorts. He loves that one, and he's like, you got to talk to this guy. He's so good, and he's right, really talented.
Well, I owe a lot of thanks to Mark because he was one of the first people I sent that script to, and so he gave me a lot of really good advice on how to make it stronger, and he's been a really great collaborator and friend.
Yeah, we love Mark because he's so low key, but when he gets excited about something, it's hard not to get excited with him.
Yeah.
You're just like, I don't know why you're so excited, but it must be good.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So a couple little things, Rick, before we wrap up. Anything that you're currently working on that we can keep an eye out for?
I mean, All Sorts just launched, so you know, go to allsortsmovie.com and see where it's streaming on, you know, Amazon, Apple TV, and you know, everything else. So that's a lot of, you know, we just got rated.
That one's worth your time. That one is it's fun and it's quirky and it's a good ride.
Yeah, and that's our big thing right now is All Sorts. Yeah, making sure people know that there's this really crazy office movie where paper clips come alive and file cabinets eat people, and it's got that strange sense of humor. And if you don't like your office job or remember not liking an office job, that's the film for you.
Yeah, I come from my wife too, from a call center background, and we found some similarities with the call center in that movie.
The office that we filmed in was a call center. And
see, that makes sense to me. I believe that.
And the reason we knew that is because we were trying to record sound. You know, when you record sound, you want to turn off all the air conditioners, all the refrigerators, you know, anything that's like making noise. And we turned off everything in that office, and it was still like a
hum,
like a white noise. And we realized it was coming from the speaker in the ceiling, and it was just a white noise speaker, so that, you know, kind of to drown out all of the other calls that were happening. And so there was just like a white noise generator in that office because it used to be a call center.
Yeah.
It took us a long time to figure that out, what that noise was.
I spent a couple of decades doing it. You should have called me. I could have been like, it's probably a white noise thing they got in the ceiling.
I had no idea. And
well, if you've ever worked in a call center, it's like it's just almost like a hum because you have so many people talking at the same time and you can't pick any of it out. So it's almost like white noise you're listening to anyway. So they try to do that stuff to drown out, some of it, so you don't just have a bunch of people talking over it, and the people they're talking to on the phone will be like, what?
Well, it was a really great really great place to film our movie, All Sorts, which is I don't know if you haven't heard about it. It's this movie about a really fast filer. So someone who just files folders really fast, and she finds out about this underground competition. And so I describe it kind of like a sports movie, but instead of baseball or wrestling, it's all about filing.
They're filing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the first movie that has focused on the file.
Definitely the best filing movie of 2022.
Yeah, I can't argue with that for sure. So, okay, so last thing, Rick, before we go, where can we find, out about the projects you're working on? Where can we find you on social media?
My production company is called Vibrant Penguin. So you can find out about, all the projects that we're doing at vibrantpenguin.com.
Yeah.
And you can keep in touch with me. I'm on Facebook and let's see, what else? Instagram, All Sorts. If you kind of, All Sorts is all over the place. So if you message All Sorts, I'm going to see it. It's at All Sorts Movie on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, all of the above. So yeah, just reach out and we'll say hi.
Well, and All Sorts, it's streaming right now, right? So you can watch it anywhere pretty much.
Yeah.
Amazon, Apple, any of them.
And we're also going to be on Emirates Airlines. So if you're flying to the Middle East, make sure to check out All Sorts.
How does that come about? How did you get it set up on an airline?
We found a person, our coordinator, our film distribution consultant. She knew someone that focused more in airline distribution, and that person knew someone who actually was like buying rights. And
that there's a job called film distribution.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat. That's pretty neat. That's a job that you wouldn't know about unless you got involved in the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Well, Rick, thank you so much. This has been a blast. Mark said I would like you, and he was.
It was really great meeting you, Michael. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's terrific. And, when we're out in LA one of these times, we're gonna have to look you up.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. All right, hold on one second. All right, so that was writer-director Rick Castaneda. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I had a good time with that one. I always love hearing about the behind-the-scenes type of work in the entertainment world. So hearing about him working as a supervisor, because I wasn't sure exactly what they did, that made sense to me. That was a lot of fun. I think he's so talented, and I would encourage you to go and check out Cement Suitcase, All Sorts, his work on Sushi Dragon show. Sounds like even Ninja Go and Ninja. Now I can't remember how he said it, but that sounds like that one. Same type of thing, just quirky and fun and filled with humor and good times. So definitely check out his work. Mark was exactly right. Rick is a super talented guy and just a good guy to talk to. So enjoyed that one. Hope you did as well. If you've been watching or listening and you say, hey, these guys are pretty good, I'd like to hear some more or watch some more. Well, we're just a father and son team in a little town in West Virginia. We have built this up over the last 4 years. We're closing in about a month that we're going to hit 4 years of doing this, and it has done better than either of us could have imagined. We just did it as a way to spend time together, and it turned into this thing. And I'm so grateful for every single one of you that watches or listens. Really appreciate it. So if you want to help us out, there's a couple of ways you can do that. They're real easy. If you're watching, our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Please subscribe. It's free. It's just a click, but it really helps us out. So if you've been watching, please subscribe. If you're listening, wherever you hear your podcast from, whatever app you're using, subscribe. That'll help us as well, and it's free. If you like this interview, there's 485 more of them on our, and you can find, if you're not on YouTube, if you're not listening to a podcast app, you can find all of those episodes, audio and video, on our website, meistercon.com. So definitely check that out. It'll also let you know if we have anything special going on. You know, if we're watching All Sorts here at the studio, that'll be on the website. If we're covering a convention, if we're going on location, all that will be on the website. And we're in the process of adding some enhancements to it. So definitely check that out. Thank you guys so much. Until next time, bye everybody.